we go on the Friday edition, Mr. Irrelevant. I'm Alex Strofe with you from the Gruber Law Office's One Call That's All studio at the Avenue in downtown Milwaukee. Everybody's off today. Will Summers is here. That's it.
No grinders on this program. It's embarrassing.
No grinders at all. But good to be with you. We are with you earlier today. If you're watching with us live on YouTube at ESPN Milwaukee, at ESPN Madison, it is noon rather than 12:30 because we're going for 2 hours today. Got a call from upstairs. They said, "Hey Strofe, hey Will, you guys are not working enough already as it is. We want you to work more."
They said you guys are no longer the relievers. We're moving you out of the bullpen. Get on the rubber.
Get on the rubber. So here we are, and we have a big show for you today. So I just want to get a tweet out, and then which I probably should have done beforehand, but I'm doing it late.
I wish someone would have told you to do that. Sorry, I'm not a boss.
No,
I shouldn't be bossing you around.
You're right. You're right. Okay, tweet is out. Okay, so we are with you until right around 2 o'clock. We'll probably end a couple minutes earlier than 2 o'clock today. But lots to react to, obviously, with Chris McIntosh, with Luke Fickell, and everything going on there. So we will get to some Chris McIntosh and Luke Fickell reaction after McIntosh announces through Pete Thamel of ESPN yesterday that, Luke Fickell's going to be back in 2026. If you've been paying attention, if you have had your eye on the Wisconsin football program at all over this season, which has been a tumultuous one and a really disappointing one if you're a Badgers fan, because it's year 3 of Fickell, right? Like at this point, you expect to see some results, and the results are you're at rock bottom. Like you are at Don Morton era level with Wisconsin football. It's about as bad as it's been in my life because I was born, in the 90s, right? That's when Barry Alvarez turned this thing around. And Barry's first year in the early 1990s was not good. But then it was all up from there. And with Luke Fickell, the first year was not good. And then the second year was not good. And now the third year has been even worse. And obviously we knew preseason how hard their schedule was, how hard it was going to be to find wins. But they've barely competed. And their last game, obviously coming off the bye week, their last game in Oregon was a good sign, I guess. It's a 21-7 loss to one of the best teams in the country, but you're playing in the rain. I mean, you can make excuses either way, right? Still shouldn't give you a lot of faith. So after the loss to Maryland, Chris McIntosh spoke to a few reporters and wanted to clarify that he has faith in Luke Fickell and he has faith in the direction of this program. And then a couple of weeks ago, he sends out a letter saying that there will be more resources put towards football, Wisconsin football. There will be more money. There will be more resources. And now yesterday, McIntosh just flat out tells Pete Thamel of ESPN and flat out comes out and says, Luke Fickell will be the coach in 2026. And he does what you can't really splice it any other way than a fluff piece with Jesse Temple of Badger Connect, stating his vision for the future with Luke Fickell at the helm and some of the things he expects in 2026, given that, well, he announced Luke Fickell will be back in 2026. And there is a 7-word phrase that McIntosh slipped into this fluff piece, this fluff interview with Jesse Temple, who is an outstanding reporter. Jesse Temple now works for Badger Connect. After spending a long time with the Athletic, he's an outstanding reporter and terrific interviewer, and this is worth your time watching. So when I am taking a knock on this fluff piece, I am not knocking Jesse Temple. I am knocking Chris McIntosh because I think he didn't realize in the situation. There's a pre-recorded interview done in the comfort of the University of Wisconsin halls where he doesn't realize there's going to be a visceral reaction, especially when you bring back a coach who has done nothing but fail and fall short of expectations, and you say these 7 words to Jesse Temple that made the rounds on the internet yesterday.
What does success look like to you? How will you determine whether this is a path that is working?
Yeah, I think, the priority for me is to continue to grow the program in a way that puts us in a position to achieve those expectations. That comes in many forms. It's not limited to wins and losses.
All right. So those last 7 words again, Will.
It's not limited to wins and losses.
Does count as a word? That might be 8 words.
No, that's a, what's the word? It's not a word. It's a paraphrase, a phrase.
Yeah.
That's not a word.
No, it's not a word. So
It's a sound.
So one more
It's
time.
Not onomatopoeia.
One more time. The 7 words from Wisconsin Athletic Director Chris McIntosh on how he will evaluate 2026.
It's not limited to wins and losses.
So I think he's been. I will say this. I will say this in defense of Chris McIntosh. He has been getting killed over this. Has been getting killed over those 7 words.
I mean, what did you expect to happen when you said that?
I don't think he meant it the way it's being perceived. I don't. Because wins and losses don't matter this year or last year or the year prior. They matter a hell of a lot more next year. Because here's the thing, right? We've all had a relationship or a friendship or even at work, right? When you do something wrong and you ask somebody, hey, are you upset or are you mad at me? Right? Let's use this for an example, okay? I maybe misspoke towards my girlfriend. Like Chris McIntosh just did. It's not all about wins and losses. Maybe I said something I shouldn't have said to my girlfriend. And I say, sorry, honey, are you mad? And she looks at me with a deadpan face and says, well, I'm not mad. I don't believe you, okay? If you have to clarify, I'm not mad, I don't believe you. We've used the term, this is like the Titanic. Ben Brust on KBN has often said, this is the Titanic and they've hit the iceberg. But let's use it in this sense, right? If you're on a boat and the captain of the boat says, oh, the boat's not sinking. Those are words that never need to be said. If you are coming out as the athletic director of Wisconsin with 4 games, that's a quarter of the season, a third of the season. A third of the season is left. And if you are the athletic director of Wisconsin, you are coming out unprompted, right? It's not like Pete Thamel called him and said, hey, Chris, just wondering, is Luke Fickell going to be back in 20? He didn't call him and ask him that. Chris McIntosh decided to reach out to Pete Thamel of ESPN, the premier college football insider, and say, hey, yeah, he'll be back in 2026. Just, can you please let everybody know he'll be back in 2026? You are signaling that things are awful. It's just like saying, I'm not mad, or the boat's not sinking, or Luke Fickell will be back as the head coach in 2026. What you are doing is signaling to every single person, alumni, former players, current players, fans, family members of the current players. Shoot, you are signaling to Luke Fickell's family that this is not going to, that is the admission you are making as the athletic director. Right? Nobody's more comfortable now. And we will get to his reasoning for doing this before their 4th to final game of the season. With a third of the season still remaining, we will get to his reasoning as Chris McIntosh joined Wilde Tausch this morning on ESPN Wisconsin. But you doing this is signaling to everybody that this is about as bad as it gets. And I actually do want to hear from Chris McIntosh on this because I want to say what I want to say, and I will say it. But I think it's important to have the context of what Chris McIntosh said. The very first question Jason Wilde asked him this morning on Wilde Tausch, which I think was the question we were all wondering from this release yesterday, was, why now? Why are you doing this now? And here is Chris McIntosh's response to Jason Wilde.
Where this came from in my mind was, we need to create clarity around the direction and the future of our program. Clearly there have been many conversations throughout the season between Luke and I, between the team and I, obviously with Luke. And there's a point, given, the speculation and just the noise around the program about what might be, in which I felt it was necessary just to create clarity.
All right,
and
stop
I think
right there.
I owe
Stop right
that
there.
to
create clarity. And then he goes on to say, I owe it to the players, I owe it to the coaches, the yada, yada, yada. I owe it to the recruits. Name one other university that's done this year. Name one. Name one university that has completely underperformed expectations in 3 years under a head coach, that the athletic director views it necessary to create clarity with a third of the season remaining, that he will be the head coach the following year. I ask you to name one because you can't. This doesn't happen. This has only made it messier. And I think that's the part where maybe Chris McIntosh views it as a good thing for recruits. But here's the thing about 17 and 18-year-old kids, and even guys are going to go after in the portal. They're on the internet. They know what the score of your games are. They know what your fans are saying and thinking about the state of this program. They know all this. So you coming out and saying he will be the head coach of 2026, I don't view that as clarity. I view that as an admission of things being awful. I view that as you acknowledging that, oh my God, this is way worse than we ever anticipated. This is way worse than we expected. This is an admission by Chris McIntosh that this hasn't worked out at all. This marriage that dates back to November of 2022, when McIntosh was, or excuse me, when Fickell was introduced as the head coach of the Wisconsin Badgers, right? He's had the 23 season, the 24 season, now the 25 season. In November of 22, when I was at that press conference, when Luke Fickell was introduced as the head coach in Madison, and they are talking about championships and getting to the college football playoff and getting Wisconsin back to being one of the premier college football programs. That's what the expectation was. And less than or just about 3 years later, you have Chris McIntosh on Badger Connect with Jesse Temple saying these 7 words after 3 years prior when he hired Luke Fickell, talking about championships and chasing championships, Big Ten championships, college football playoff, and then 3 years later, moving the goalpost to this.
It's not limited to wins and losses.
That is the ultimate backtrack. And that is the ultimate goalpost move. And that's what makes this situation entirely unacceptable. I do not have a position on whether or not Luke Fickell should remain as the head coach in 2026. Right? Our job is to have opinions. I really don't have an opinion. And here's why. I think if you fire Luke Fickell, you set yourself back monetarily because it's a massive buyout. I think you set yourself back because most of these guys that do believe, we heard from Cooper Catalano, for example, the freshman linebacker. He was on the jump around yesterday with Pablo Iglesias and Jim Rutledge on ESPN Madison. Cooper Catalano said, everybody in that locker room believes in Luke Fickell. Okay, that's great. Right? I'm not in the locker room. I don't know whether or not I believe in Luke Fickell. But what I do know is if I'm a high school recruit, right? And let's say I'm a 4-star prospect from, let's just say Milwaukee, right? That's where I'm sitting. Hypothetical. And I am being recruited by the University of Wisconsin. Why would this give me clarity? Why would this make me feel better? Why would the athletic director sticking his neck out for the head coach with 4 games remaining in the season that has already been terrifically underwhelming? Why would this give me clarity and faith and expectations of when I arrive, or in theory could arrive on campus as a 4-star recruit, that we're going to all of a sudden win games? Like, I view this as the messiest state. Like, what do they always say? Like, the couples that post each other on Instagram a lot are usually the most unhappy couple.
Yeah, it's like the honeymoon phase. If you have to make yourself believe that you're in the honeymoon phase, you're not in the honeymoon phase, right, or in a good state in your relationship.
And look, again, I'm not sitting here, and I'm not going to be the one that says Luke Fickell's an awful coach. I think his track record at Wisconsin is horrible. I mean, it's as bad as it gets in the Big Ten. For as exciting of a hire as that was in November of 2022, it has been awful results-wise. Awful. And so, I'm not going to stick my neck out and say, well, he should be the head coach in 2026. I don't know. I think it would set you back. But this is inept leadership, in my opinion. And I like Chris McIntosh. And overall, I thought his run as athletic director was pretty good up until the last few months. But if you need to, not once, not twice, but 3 times in the same football season, go out of your way to defend the head coach. It's like a couple on Instagram that post each other too much. It tells me that this relationship is not working and you're just trying to sell us something you don't actually believe in. And that's where I'm at today with Chris McIntosh. We'll hear more from him until 2 o'clock today. By the way, Riley Jauch, Jake Kocorowski, both going to join us in the 1 o'clock hour to break this down.
Here's the other thing about the wins and losses and trying to sell people on the process. Like you said, we're in year 2, right? Mm-hmm. Year 2 of Luke Fickell.
Year 3.
Year 3. Exactly. There's never been a time in college football where it is easier to instantly become a contender. Look at Indiana. I know they're the prime example for everybody, but even schools like USF, Memphis. They're building these college football playoff contenders in 1 to 2 years. So for us to sit back and listen to Chris McIntosh say, oh, it's not about wins and losses right now. It's about developing this team and this process of bringing in these new recruits, like he's in year 3, his recruiting classes are just about to start priming. We shouldn't have to wait for that. With the transfer portal and the way NIL is, and the fact that you are a Power 5 team, the success should be instant if you really want it to be.
Yeah.
I just think it's preposterous for him to say that wins and losses should not be the forefront of a Power 5 football team that has historically found sustained success in the Big Ten, and not just the Big Ten, the entire NCAA as a whole, as a national powerhouse.
Bingo.
That's disrespectful to every fan, every player, everybody associated with the program to say, you know what? We're not going to focus on being good right now. We can't do it right now. We're just going to focus on progressing. That's unfair. Like if you told me this in a year or in a time when NIL and all this money didn't exist, okay, that's fine. The main way that you are gaining these new players is through high schools, and Luke Fickell, he might have missed on a recruiting class, and now his guys that he hit on are going to come up and develop and get into those key spots. But there's no time other than the present where you should be able to build an instant contender if you are taking yourself seriously.
Yeah, that's the difference, and I see a comment on Madison, which again, I'm not sitting here and advocating for the firing of Luke Fickell. I've never really been that guy. I'm not going to pretend to be that guy. My issue is more with McIntosh and the reason that this release happened and the weird PR stunt that this has been all season, despite the inexcusable results that Wisconsin has faced, right? It's not like it's just they're getting pounded by Alabama and Indiana, which will happen in 2 weeks, and Michigan, et cetera, right? And Ohio State. It's not just that. Let's not forget how bad they looked against Middle Tennessee State.
They're surrendering to these big teams. They're not even trying to beat them.
Yeah, the Oregon game, they scored last, so I guess you could take a little bit of faith in that. They were at 21-0 and lost 21-7.
Tausch said it on Wilde Tausch. He said that touchdown did feel pretty good. So.
I bet. It was their first touchdown in how long?
I was looking today. They have not had a 100-yard passer in the past 3 games. They have not had somebody throw 90-plus yards in the past 3 games.
That's bad.
That's despicable.
The position's been in flux. Every year Fickell's been here. I'm not defending him. I'm just saying
but
every
in a blowout to not get some pity yards to get up to 100, like that is embarrassing.
So I see this comment, and I do want to address it. So Barry Alvarez arrived at Wisconsin as the head coach in 1990. Went 1-10 his first year. They were very bad. 5-6, 5-6. His following 2 years because they only played 11 games back then. Luke Fickell ain't going to win 5 games in year 3. Luke Fickell ain't going to win 3 games in year 3.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's the difference. At least there was a little bit of progression with Barry Alvarez, and then in year 4 they went 10-1-1 with a tie in there, but he won 10 games. Year 4 was the explosive year for Barry Alvarez, and it was pretty much all uphill from there, with exception to 1995 when they went 4-5-2. They were 8-3-1 in 94, 4-5-2 in 95, 8-5, 8-5, 11-1, 10-2, 9-4, 5-7 in 2001, 8-6, 7-6, 9-3, 10-3. So Barry turned it around and sustained success. And
how many years too?
It was year 4 when they really turned it around.
But that's also in an age where
they won
recruiting and everything else was vastly different to where it is now.
So different.
I wouldn't even compare it to 10 years ago. It was so different than how it is now.
Yeah. So I find myself surprised, irritated, annoyed by the fact that this was even need to be done.
I mean, you said it best. These other schools that are floundering with their coaches, they never did this because you know what they did? They got rid of the coach.
Bingo.
In the year where there has been arguably the most firing and buyouts in college football ever, no school has gotten to this point that the Wisconsin Badgers have. And guess what? Those schools, come close, they were all better than Wisconsin.
Yeah.
What does that say about them?
Correct. And Dr. Denver Day, I'm just kind of repeating what you just said, Will, and that is, with NIL, can you really compare the Fickell era to the Barry era? That's college versus pro, and he is correct, right? These are different eras. This is different times. when you are paying for guys to play like you are in Madison now and in the NCAA now, it's a completely different era to 1990 and 1991 and 1992 when Barry Alvarez was taking over and changing what Wisconsin football was and what it was known as, which was, generally coming out of the Don Morton era, bad football school. That's not the case when Luke Fickell took over. There was a couple bad years under Paul Chryst, and he wasn't evolving with the age of NIL and transfer portal, et cetera. So that's why they made the change to a guy who took a non-Power 5 school to a college football playoff and who was the hottest candidate on the block when he was hired in Wisconsin. And none of that's happened, right? You can tell me, well, he's had really good recruiting classes. Has he? That's why stars kind of suck to begin with, but you're getting these 5 and 4 and 3-star recruits, and all of a sudden you have the 19th best recruiting class in the country, and it's led to, well, a 2-10 season very likely. I don't think they're winning another game. Maybe they will. I think it's unlikely. So no, I don't think you can compare the Fickell and Barry eras, and I think these two are very different individuals. Again, I am not saying Luke Fickell is necessarily a bad football coach, okay? Not what I'm saying. But the product we have seen from him in this era of college athletics is not acceptable at a Big Ten school. You have gone from a team that is competing for Big Ten championships year over year to a team that is at the basement of the Big Ten. And that's bad.
I don't think it's acceptable in any sport. With the resume that Wisconsin has in this specific sport, I wouldn't accept this in any collegiate athletic sport. How the decline that they've had, and we talked about it too, the progression. McIntosh preaches how, they're not worried about wins and losses. We're going to keep progressing. And they've had these good recruiting classes, and what has come from it? I haven't heard of any homegrown Wisconsin recruit being an impact player for them this year. Has there? Jauch Kahuna, I think he's homegrown. He's been solid for them, but it's no one's standing out, jumping off the page at me.
Well, that's the hard part with being an awful football team is nobody's really
and they
out.
have had a lot of injuries. I will say that.
But you probably have guys if you want to reach, right? Like Catalano's a name I just mentioned, and defensively he's been good for them. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to do some more research and get back to you on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see.
It's also crazy the standard that was set in Paul Chryst' year. What? How many wins did he have the year that he got fired? Was it 7 or 8?
No, they finished with 6, and then I think
halfway through the year, right? It was after they played Illinois and lost at home.
Yeah, they lost at home to Illinois. He was fired, and that was in early October. And then Leonard took over, and they got the 6 wins. Ultimately, a 7th, I think.
Yeah,
because I think they won that bowl game that Fickell was not technically coaching, but kind of coaching.
He was there.
But that was just an ugly game anyway. I think they played Oklahoma State and
Gundy.
Neither of them had any of their actual starters there. They were both playing backup quarterbacks, and it was all messy. So, I don't know. Is Mason Reiger from Wisconsin? No, he's from
Louisville,
Illinois.
Or I think he went to Louisville and then Illinois, maybe?
Yeah,
I think he definitely went to
Hoffman
Louisville.
Estates, Illinois.
Okay.
More, Matt.
Yes.
Where's Hoffman Estates? Do you know? You're in Illinois.
They were in our conference for high school in the northwest suburbs. But
did you play Mason Reiger?
I didn't play football. I guess our years would have lined up that we would have played him, but I was talking more homegrown, not transfers, guys that they recruited.
Oh, sure.
And I know he's a transfer from Louisville. Sebastian Cheeks, who's been good for them, is transfer from North Carolina on the defensive side of the ball. All their quarterbacks transfers. Guess the offensive line.
Well, that's where that used to be their bread and butter.
Right.
So who knows? All right. We will get back to the Badgers around 1 o'clock. As I mentioned, Riley Jauch from ESPN Wisconsin College Game Day, ESPN Madison, the jump around. He is going to join us at 1 o'clock from 1 until 1:30 or so. Jake Kokorowski of BadgerObserver, longtime beat reporter on this team, is going to join us. Our buddy Jake Koko going to join us right around 1:35. Because I want to get his perspective on some of this stuff, also some of the claims that have been made by, whether it's Brad Nortman or Tim Brando or Chris McIntosh. I've just got some things I need to get past a guy that's very much in the weeds and in the know, in Jake Kokorowski. So he's going to join us to wrap up the show around 1:30. So we are going to go back to Packers and business as normal until 1 o'clock. At 1 o'clock, we're going to go all Badgers for an hour. All right? So real quick, I do want to talk about this Monday Night Football game. Packers-Eagles coming up Monday. We will have our show Monday previewing the game beginning at 12:30. as we always do. I'll be at the Tundra Trio in Green Bay, just outside of Lambeau, to preview that one with you. And then we'll do Green Bay Game Day, as we always do, just on a Monday this week. It starts at 4 o'clock on Monday. And we'll watch the game, and we'll be back with you Wednesday to react to it. But it's been a week, right? We've had all week to kind of get our feelings out about this Green Bay Packers team. And now we've got to put our sights as fans on the Eagles on Monday. And the thing that I'm still struggling with is I'm having a really hard time figuring out exactly what the Green Bay Packers are. Right? I think they're a good team, but sometimes they're not a very good team. And sometimes they look like they are an elite offense, and sometimes they look like an offense that's doing too much, and the play caller, and Matt LaFleur, doesn't have the greatest idea of what he wants this team to be. That's the part I struggle with. So I don't really know what to expect on Monday. They're 2.5-point favorites, and knowing Matt LaFleur and knowing the Green Bay Packers, this will be a game they find a way to win. They'll beat the reigning Super Bowl champions. But then again, they could lose by 20, and that could give us a better idea of exactly what to expect. So I don't know. Tucker Kraft loss is going to be a big one. So whenever I'm feeling down in the dumps, I like calling people who are eternal optimists like me. And, like if you're an eternal optimist, I think you keep a good track of like good energy people. Like, Will, you're a good energy guy.
I'd say so.
I like keeping around for that. Josh, on the other hand, not always a great energy guy.
This Monday he was not.
Hunter, on the other hand, right? Like I call him the doomsday fan. Not always a great energy guy. You are a good energy guy, which is why I'm actually happy it's just me and you today.
On a day where we need good energy,
it's just you and me.
The right crew.
So, but also like I peg in my weird ADHD brain, I think of like who are good energy people, who can make me feel better, who's going to make me laugh and make me smile. One of those guys, 10-year NFL wide receiver, now works for ESPN Radio, Freddie and Harry, ESPN Radio, 2 to 6 Central. He's funny, he's weird, he's goofy, he's got a weird perspective on things, good perspective on things. A 10-year NFL vet for Atlanta and Tennessee. So I called Harry Douglas. I'm like, dude, make me feel better about the Packers. So Harry Douglas is going to join us now as we try to dive into and diagnose what exactly the Packers are and how to move forward with the Green Bay Packers. Harry Douglas on Mr. Irrelevant right now. Friday edition, Mr. Irrelevant. Alex Strofe with you from the Gruber Law Offices. One call outside studio at the Avenue in downtown Milwaukee. Excited to be joined now by the legend from Freddie and Harry on ESPN Radio. Harry Douglas is with me. And Harry, I wanted to call you on this Friday because it's been a weird week in Wisconsin. And you're upbeat, you're happy, you're comedic, and I'm feeling really down and low about my Packers. So I wanted to call you, hoping you could make me feel better about this team. Do you think you can maybe try to help me?
Oh, that's going to be tough, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try my best.
I appreciate the attempt at the very least. So a loss to the Browns, a loss to the Panthers, and a tie to the Cowboys so far this season for the 5-2-1 Packers, Harry. What do you make of this team through 8 games? Because I'm struggling to figure out what their identity is, what they're capable of. And I don't know if you have a whole lot of a better idea, but again, I'm calling you to try to help me.
Yeah, so I would use the phrase Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's the best way to describe the Green Bay Packers. There are times, I remember on Thursday Night Football versus the Washington Commanders, they looked excellent. Week 1 versus the Detroit Lions across the board, they were excellent. But then you have those lapses versus teams like the Cleveland Browns, who we know who are not a good football team in the league right now. You have a boneheaded interception by Jordan Love late in that ball game. The offensive line in that game did not play as well as they should have. And I think consistently in the wrong direction, this offensive line, they have not lived up to the hype. Those guys need to be better, number one, protecting Jordan Love, but also, creating those lanes and avenues for Josh Jacobs to be able to run through and have these explosive runs that we know he's capable of having on a consistent basis. And I would also say you look at this past weekend versus the Carolina Panthers, and, you get into the red zone 5 times, but you're only able to get into the end zone once. So you're 1 for 5 in the red zone. That's a recipe for disaster. That's definitely a way to lose a football game. But not only that, you look at, on the defensive side, the inability to stop the run game versus Rico Dotto and the Carolina Panthers. And they did exactly what they wanted to do coming in as a football team, the Carolina Panthers, that is, in Lambeau Field, rushing for 163 yards. And, it was about tackling. It was about getting the running back down on the ground, and they just couldn't do it. So, you need that consistency. And I know consistency has been the word for Jordan Love the last few years, but I think for the Green Bay Packers as a team, as a whole, they need to be more consistent. We know they have players on defense, but what good is it to have them on paper if they aren't performing on a consistent basis the way we know they're supposed to?
Yeah,
and then we know on the offensive side that you have wide receivers galore.
Mm-hmm.
But what good is it going to be talking about those guys if they can't remain healthy for a full season? And week in and week out, you got to worry about if this guy's going to be playing, if that guy's going to be playing. And then for Jordan Love, hey, we need to see you step up and be worth that $55 million a year. Now, there are moments where you see that kind of quarterback, but then there are also moments when you scratch your head and say, now, why would he make that mistake or make that throw again? You want to go in hindsight? Look at this weekend versus the Carolina Panthers, that boneheaded interception late.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And that's the hard part of evaluating exactly what he is, because one week we're talking about, oh my goodness, he could be in the MVP conversation if he keeps this up after a really solid second half against Pittsburgh. And then you use the term boneheaded mistakes, which is not the first time we've seen that this season from a guy like Jordan Love. Where do you view him in terms of the NFL, Harry? Do you view him as like a top 10, top 15 guy, or is it still kind of the jury's out on him because it's been a roller coaster ride through his first 2.5 years as a starter?
You know what? Like right now, like the season is still going on, and you're 8-9 games in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give him the rest of the year. The thing about Jordan Love is, like, we know from the last 2 years that from the middle of the season to playoff football, like, he's been excellent. Outside of the playoff game versus the Philadelphia Eagles, but he's been excellent. Can you do that for 17 games, or can you do it for 15 games? We don't want to see it for 7 to 9 games. Can you be the quarterback that can build every single week and be the reason why this organization is taking the next step?
Yeah.
That's the thing with Jordan Love.
It's like maybe not with Love, but my relationship with the Packers overall as a Green Bay native, I grew up in Green Bay. It's like a toxic relationship, man. The highs are high, the lows are low. And this has been one of those weeks where I'm like, damn, should I really stay in this relationship?
And look, you look at their next matchup, right? Monday Night Football versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I know the Philadelphia Eagles, they've had their own issues this season, but what have they done the last 2 games? They've, offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo said we got to switch some things up. Jalen Hurts has been under center, the play action game. They've thrown the football across the middle of the football field, which is something they don't normally do. They're finding ways to be better. They're not just sitting on, hey, this is who we are. If things aren't going right and you're not having the right production within your organization, well, that's one thing I can applaud Nick Sirianni for. Going to the drawing board, seeing what needs to be fixed, and then offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo has done a great job the last 2 weeks. The Philadelphia Eagles' last ball game that they played and won, Jalen Hurts was under center more so in that game than he has been any other game this season. So that lets me know they're not just ignoring things that need to get fixed. They're finding solutions to the problem, and they're actually getting it done.
Yeah, and hopefully that's something Green Bay can figure out. I don't love the term must win, Harry Douglas. I don't love it, especially at this time of the year. But in terms of, hey, prove to me you belong with the cream of the crop in the NFC, do you view Monday against Philly as a must-win for Green Bay to prove they belong in that Super Bowl conversation?
Yeah, I agree. Must win, not in the sense that, hey, the Packers are not going to make the playoffs if they lose the game, but must win just showing that you belong with the upper echelon. Now, their only quality win, I would say, well, I guess you could say the Pittsburgh Steelers because Pittsburgh is leading the AFC North. But the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Detroit Lions, those are the only quality wins I feel like they've had so far this season. But we knew this was the thing last year, right? When you looked at the quality opponents that they played last season, it's not like they beat a lot of them. They beat up on some of the bad teams, and a lot of those losses came in the division, in the NFC North as a whole. So, can you show on Monday Night Football when everyone is watching, and we know the team that you're playing won the Super Bowl last year, their general manager, Howie Roseman, just made some trades for 3 defensive players. A.J. Brown is coming back. Can you get a win in front of everyone and showing that, hey, we are a force to be reckoned with in the NFC, and we're not out of contention for this number 1 seed. We're still locked in stone.
You've got Ravens-Vikings on ESPN Radio. That's the game you'll be on the call for this weekend. Another team in the NFC that I think or in the NFC North that has a lot of questions around them. How do you evaluate this division, Harry? Obviously, the Lions maybe lost a little bit of a step, but to me, they still look like the most consistent team in this division. I don't know what to make of J.J. McCarthy, and I certainly don't know what to make of Ben Johnson, the Chicago Bears, but they're at 5-3 on the year. How do you view this division, which in terms of wins was the best in football a year ago?
Yeah, so we talked about Green Bay already. I'm going to go to Detroit next. You know, Detroit, I thought they were playing really good football up until last week versus the Minnesota Vikings. Now, but Minnesota did a great job up versus them. One of the recipes to beat a Detroit Lions team led by Jared Goff is to, number one, make him very uncomfortable in the pocket. That's exactly what Minnesota did, having 6 sacks and, throwing different looks at him. Another way is to minimize the run game. Detroit only rushed for 65 yards versus the Minnesota Vikings. So Brian Flores, as a defensive coordinator, did a phenomenal job. And I felt like J.J. McCarthy as a quarterback, and a lot of people – they were basically giving up on him a little bit, and I told people just relax a little bit because their 2 offensive tackles had been out. Their starting center was out. They got both of their offensive tackles back. Now, they still allowed 5 sacks, but J.J. McCarthy made the plays when necessary. They were able to run the football. Their very first 2 possessions, Aaron Jones has 2 explosive runs. What better way to jump off your first 2 possessions than to have your running back with 2 explosive runs? But J.J. made the throws necessary. It came down to a 3rd and 5, right? And he had to hit Naylor for a first down. Perfect ball placement, back shoulder it. They get the football. They keep the football, game's over. So, I think it's going to be a little bit what we've seen from J.J. McCarthy at Michigan. Play really good defense, run the football effectively. J.J., we need you to make throws when we ask you to make them. And then I'll go to Chicago. They got a big win this weekend.
They did.
They got a big win versus the Cincinnati Bengals, and we all know Cincinnati's defense is god-awful, but I think this division is going to be a dogfight all the way down to the end. But with Green Bay losing and then Minnesota beating Detroit, the door is still ajar for Minnesota. A lot of people had given up on them because they had 4 losses. But now, with 2 teams losing in the division, the door's still ajar for them to come back and try to win it.
Yeah, Packers in first place at 5-2-1. Detroit right behind them at 5-3. Just behind them, or really with them, is Chicago at 5-3, and Minnesota only a game back at 4-4. All these teams 500 or better through at least 8 games on the season. All right, Harry Douglas, last thing for you.
And guess what?
Go ahead. Yeah.
And guess what? Here's the thing about Minnesota. They still play Green Bay twice. They still play the Chicago Bears once. And they still play Detroit once. So it's not going to be over until the pretty lady sings.
The pretty lady. I like that. The many phases of Harry Douglas. If you were wearing a mask, by the way, you do this mask bit on Freddie and Harry on ESPN Radio from 2 to 6 p.m. Central, where you wear different masks. I've seen the Hulk mask. I've seen the Anonymous mask. I think I've seen a Batman mask on you. What mask would you put on to describe the Green Bay Packers?
Do they have an incognito mask?
That's what they were this weekend.
Well, because sometimes, they're incognito. You don't even know they exist.
Yeah. You're right about that. All right, last thing for you. I want to play a quick game I call For Real or Phony as we look at 5 teams in the NFC. I want to know if you think they're legitimate championship contenders or if maybe the record is phony at this point. Let's start with these Minnesota Vikings. 4-4, a win over the Lions over the weekend. You have them at home against the Ravens on ESPN Radio this weekend. You view them as real contenders or phonies?
Phonies. Yeah. There's still a lot more to be figured out. They have injuries they have to deal with. Aaron Jones got banged up again in this last game, so the jury's out on him if he's going to be able to be full throttle this weekend as they face the Baltimore Ravens. J.J. McCarthy had a good first game coming back. Can he continue it? Can he be consistent?
Team number 2 at 6-2, leading the NFC South, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield. For real or phony?
I'm going for real. Even with the injuries, Baker Mayfield is such a dog deep down inside. You can't measure a guy's heart and his ability to will guys to get victories, and that's exactly what Baker has been able to do. They're going to get Bucky Irvin back. They're going to get Chris Godwin back. They still going to have the weaponry. I believe they're real.
Team that's won 3 in a row in impressive fashion at 6-2, the Seattle Seahawks out west. Where do you put them?
For real, and every single letter capitalized. I love what they just did at the trade deadline. They were already Super Bowl contenders, in my opinion. They went and got Rashid Shaheed, a guy who played for Clint Kubiak in New Orleans last season. In New Orleans, in the 6 games that he played, he averaged 17.5 yards per catch. Unbelievable. You have Jackson Smith and Jigba. You have Cooper Kupp. Now you have Rashid Shaheed. You're not going to be able to double guys, and they use 2 tight ends very, very well. That defense is daunting. Yeah, they're for real.
That is a Sam Darnold believer, if I've ever heard one, in Harry Douglas. All right, 2 teams left. Another team out west, and I think the answer is easy for me here, but I'm curious to see what you say. The Los Angeles Rams, Harry.
Yeah, they're for real. I actually said before the season started that the Rams are going to have the number 1 seed in the NFC as a conference. You look at Matthew Stafford right now, I believe it's 21 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions, playing lights-out football for the Rams. His relationship and chemistry with Puka Nacua, but also Devontae Adams. Defensively, I don't think people are talking enough about their defensive line and how much they wreak havoc. I love the Los Angeles Rams.
I bet you can't guess where I'm going with the last one. For real or phony, Harry Douglas, the Green Bay Packers.
I don't want people to get mad at me, but phony. I need to see more consistency. You can't have games where you're allowing the Dallas Cowboys to score 40 points and the game ends in a tie. You allow the Cleveland Browns to beat you, and then you allow the Carolina Panthers, even though I believe Carolina's a good football team, to come to your house, walk in your trap, and take over your trap. Phony for the moment.
Well, I started this conversation by saying, hey, please make me feel better. I'm ending this conversation by saying, Harry Douglas, you absolutely did not do that.
It's okay. I still love you.
I love you too, Harry Douglas. Freddie and Harry, ESPN Radio. You can hear him, Ravens at Vikings, on ESPN Radio on Sunday. Harry, this was really fun. We'll do it again, my friend. Thanks a lot.
No problem.
Harry Douglas on Mr. Irrelevant. Didn't make me feel a whole lot better, to put a bow on that. We'll see what happens on Monday. I don't know. Give me a weekend of football. We'll come back for Irrelevant on Monday, and maybe I will feel better.
I think you just need a little breather. You need to recollect your thoughts.
It's been 5 days. That's a little bit of a breather, isn't it?
I think watching football on Sunday is going to eat you up. You're going to want to know.
Yeah, I mean, like, looking.
Were you one of the kids that could never wait to open your Christmas presents?
No, yeah. What makes you think that, Will?
You just seem like the eager, not patient type. Like, were you the one that was looking through, like, the closets and all the hiding spots?
Yeah. But in terms of this weekend, like, the game that Harry's calling, which is Ravens at Vikings, like, that's a game that intrigues me.
Very.
If the Ravens go out and win, it takes away a team in the NFC North, at least one game back. I mean, they're already, I think it's a game and a half technically with that tie back. 4-4 they are on there. They'd be 4-5 if the Ravens win on the road. I think there's some interesting things this weekend that I'm going to have my eye on. I mean, Lions Commanders isn't as sexy as it was before the season, but it's not so sexy right now. Commanders are not very good.
It's been disappointing to see their downfall.
Yeah. Rams Niners is an interesting game in the NFC. I still don't know what I think about the Seahawks. So we'll see. But
I think I'm in on this.
There's some good games this weekend. The ultimate point I'm trying to make in terms of, like, hey, tell me the NFC hierarchy. Tell me who's actually good and who's not.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll find out a lot. It's a learning week.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to our NFL picks, which we do every week. The loser will spend wildcard weekend at Will's apartment, which right now it is looking like who?
It is looking like it'll be Josh DiMaggio. He is in last place at 7-10-1. Myself and Hunter Vaughn tied in second to last at 8-9-1, and yours truly, Alex Strofe, 9-8-1 in first place.
It's not how yours truly works, but I appreciate it.
I tried.
Yeah, yours truly would be you.
I'll take effort.
Yeah,
I'm an effort points guy.
EFFORT, effort.
There's one thing about me, I don't usually get things right.
So every week we pick the Packers and the Eagles game. Should we wait until Monday to pick that?
We could.
Nah, we'll save it.
I
think we should put our picks in now, and I will give everybody the opportunity to change their mind on Monday.
That's fair.
All right, so we start with Josh in last place.
Josh took the Eagles, and then he also took the 49ers as his underdog. They will be at home against the LA Rams. Yeah. They're currently 5-point underdogs. A little surprising there. But I guess LA, California, Might be just a home game for the Rams, 49ers fans. I don't know how passionate they are.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one, too.
It is.
Is Brock Purdy back this week?
Maybe?
Is that a soft benching?
No.
You don't think so?
I mean, I understand why you would say that, but no, I think he's just got a bad turf toe injury. But no, they believe in Brock Purdy. Why wouldn't they?
Well, when's the last time he played? Week
But hold
2?
on, think about a soft benching, right? Like, there's been a few in the league this year. I think J.J. McCarthy was one.
The Cardinals one started out as a soft benching.
Oh,
it still is.
It still is.
It might be a hard benching.
Is he on IR now, Kyler
Yeah,
Murray?
he's on IR. Jacoby's been pretty good, though.
Jacoby's been good, right?
I've always said I thought he was one of the better backups in the league.
And you look in Minnesota, we thought, I mean, I still think that was a soft benching for J.J. McCarthy. Now he's back and got a big win.
Carson Wentz's body was falling apart on the field, and they still refused to play J.J. McCarthy, who rolled his ankle.
That was bad. Purdy is not a soft benching. I think they're just trying to keep him healthy enough so he can tune up for the playoff run. I mean, they're at 6-3. They're a good team. They're likely a playoff team. But it depends on what happens on Sunday, and Josh thinks it's going to be the Niners. So Eagles and Niners for Josh DiMaggio. Let's go to Hunter Vaughn.
Hunter, he went a little chalky again. I'm not going to get on him. I know he doesn't want to spend time with me, but he took the Eagles and then the Patriots, who are on the road against the Buccaneers. They are 2.5-point favorites underdogs on the spread. Sorry.
So this is why I love.
This is the game of the week.
I was just about to say that. So, I from a professional standpoint, I love when the Packers don't play on Sundays, because I can actually watch the full slate.
I guess like the spotlight is on them regardless because of the expectations and the very profound losses. The Packers like no matter where they play, they're gonna have a spotlight.
Right.
Where like other people's teams, it's like okay.
But I mean specifically selfishly for me.
Yeah.
Right. Like.
Well, that's like personally for me. I don't want to watch my team play in a primetime game because it's going to be like last night. If you're a Broncos fan, you're embarrassed.
That's Thursday night for you though.
Yeah, you're embarrassed of how they played against the Raiders. They won, but it was ugly.
Yeah. It sure was. That was a gross game.
Yeah.
Watched it, but it was gross.
I just saw a bunch of bad punts. There's a lot of punts and a lot of bad punts.
Yeah, 10-7 in those beautiful uniforms, though. For
gorgeous
Broncos.
Best uniform in the NFL.
I think I agree. The only one I would put up against it. There's two I would put up against it. Philly Kelly Green,
which they're wearing on Monday night.
Are they?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh no.
Maybe not because the Packers would wear green at home, right?
Yeah. Well, they could wear white. I mean, I don't know.
I thought I saw they were wearing Kelly Greens.
You might be right. And then the other one is the Buccaneers creamsicle. Those are the two I would put up against it.
Didn't they play each other in those uniforms?
Who's that? Philly?
Oh no, it was. Tampa? I like the Seahawks ones. The Seahawks blue ones.
Oh, those are sick.
Those
too.
are sweet.
With the silver helmet.
Throwing it back to like when Brian Bosworth played.
Yeah. Good name pull.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like Rick Myrer, their second overall pick.
Steve Largent.
Yeah.
There you go.
So anyway, that's uniform talk here on Mr. Irrelevant. Who you got in second place?
I was very close to taking the Packers, but I'm going to go with the Eagles. I just feel like...
So we are unanimous on Eagles so far.
Yeah. I feel like there is still a very good chance that it goes the Packers' way just because we've always seen them step up in these games.
Yeah, that's
like
the confusing
it makes
part.
no sense. And the reason I say that even more so this week than others is that when Matt LaFleur game plans around an injured player or when he has it in the back of his mind that he needs to make up for a missing piece in his offense, he usually steps up and rises to the occasion, which is what we've been waiting for him to do all season with these teams, like playing these bad teams, is rise to the occasion. Show that you're better than them. And I feel like we said, the Packers, weirdly enough, pull these off, these upsets or these games that you think, right when you think they're out, they pull you back in. So I think it might be a little closer, but Eagles, I feel like they're about to start firing on all cylinders. It was a slow start for them last year, and then they rattled off, 10 in a row or something like that. And I feel like the Packers defense... Eagles have a healthy O-line, so I don't think they're going to get much pressure. And then from there, it's pick your poison for the Eagles. Are you going to pass it against the weak secondary or just run the ball against a team that's had some trouble in the past couple weeks stopping the run? But for my underdog, I'm going to ride out a backup quarterback. Give me the Texans at home against the Jags. I think this is going to be a gross game. It's going to be so ugly. It's going to be 6-3, 12-9, something like that. But I think this Texans defense is so special. And going up against a Jags offense that's been pretty slow and, for lack of a better term, ugly the past couple weeks, I think the Texans just gut this one out with Davis Mills.
Fascinating.
Yeah. I've been kind of picking my spot here the past couple weeks. I took the Falcons last week against the Patriots.
So you like the gross games?
I love the gross games. I like trying to pick the gross games that people don't think are going to be close but are.
I took a swing last week and it worked. I picked the Steelers over the Colts.
Good pick.
Which I'm thinking about doing again. But since you're all on Philly, I'm going to use this as my opportunity to fade you guys.
That's fair.
I will take Green Bay.
I was considering it that for that reason as well.
But here's the thing with you. You've got all the information when people are off. You get the information texted to you. Yes. I didn't know your picks until right now.
I still almost picked the Packers just because.
I probably would have either way, to be honest with you. I just think they're going to respond, and they're going to continue this roller coaster story of who are they? What is this team? I very well could see them play like almost a flawless game on Monday. We've been talking about how they need to play this complete 60 minutes. And we thought, okay, yeah, like Arizona's a good opportunity for that. Or Cleveland or Carolina are good opportunities for that. They haven't played that complimentary complete football game yet. Watch it be Monday night.
I have a question for you. I was thinking about this.
Yeah, hit me.
How would your perspective on the Packers change if they played that complete game? Are you all in, or are you still skeptical of them reverting back to their lackluster play?
Well, hold on. I'm always all in.
I know, but so if they win, you are. I guess I asked the wrong person. You're all back in on the Super Bowl train.
No,
I don't know if you've ever gotten off of it, but
no, I don't know that I've ever been all in on that though, because I still need to see something that can prove it to me. And obviously, it's only November, so it's still early, and there's still time to do that. And if they piece together some really consistent football the next 2 months, obviously I'll be all in. But losing Tucker Kraft hurts you so much. I think it hurts your Super Bowl odds so much. So that's where I go, But, yeah, I still think they have the pieces. I still believe in Matt LaFleur. It's very different than Luke Fickell, right? I believe Matt LaFleur can figure it out and get this team back on track and get his play calling back on track. You know, there's been the conversation, should he give up play calling? No, because I think that's when you admit you suck, right? That's when you admit you're replaceable.
When you admit that you need to have clarity on who's going to be the coach next year.
Exactly. If you give up play calling in the National Football League, which Kevin Stefanski has now done 2 years in a row in Cleveland, I think that just admits you're not good enough and you are replaceable. And that the entire reason Matt LaFleur is a head coach in the NFL is because of his offensive prowess and his play calling ability. So to give that up, despite it being lackluster this season, that would admit, okay, maybe the seat is warmer than we thought. So we'll see. But Monday, I will take the Packers. As for my underdog, couple different ways I want to go with this. I could troll you and pick the Giants.
There is one very gross game for a team that recently traded away a lot of assets.
Yeah, so the fired coach theory is actually where I was going to go, and I think that is where I'm going to go. Now, they didn't fire their coach in Aaron Glenn, but they traded away all their good pieces. They're at home. Boo Birds will be out. I think they respond. Give me the New York Jets to win their second game of the year.
Wow. You think Justin Fields can take on the Browns defense?
No. This is like you just called, what is it, Texans and who? Jags?
Yeah.
6-3? This might be 3-0.
They're just going to outgross them.
Yeah. So give me the Jets over the Browns and the Packers. The Packers and the Jets. What a duo that is. All right, there's your Week 10 NFL picks. All right, we're going to do What We Missed presented by Door County Distillery. We're going to take a quick break, and then we will come back on YouTube to do our Badgers Hour with Riley and Coco. But first, got to tell you about Door County Distillery, locally produced, handcrafted, award-winning spirits made locally in Door County. Whiskeys, rums, brandies, vodkas, gins, and more. It's delicious. Thanksgiving is coming. You're making old fashions at Thanksgiving. Do it with the single malt whiskey and the cherry brandy from Door County Distillery. It's available statewide. Local liquor stores right near you, wherever you are. La Crosse, Green Bay, Milwaukee, Madison, Stevens Point, all the in-betweens. Visit their website, doorcountydistillery.com. Find the retailer nearest you and elevate your holiday gatherings. Door County Distillery. All right. Josh isn't here today, so I imagine you don't have any words.
Don't have any words.
Okay, so I've used proper English today.
Yes. I have something towards the end, but I'll let you get yours out of the way first.
Yeah, so I got an email last night on my personal email, which I don't use a ton. I use it for, like, bills, right? Like, right. I get my, credit card and rent and car payment, like the student loans. Those go to my personal email. Cell phone bill, stuff like that, right? And then, like, a couple of my other things, right? Like my Facebook and my Twitter and, normal email stuff that I wouldn't use my work email for. And I got an email that said, I'll just read it to you. It was not something I was expecting.
Was it, you've won an iPhone, click this link to claim it?
So, yes, sort of. But not quite that bad. Facebook user privacy settlement. Notice of upcoming settlement payment. Dear Alex Strofe, your claim submitted in regards to the Facebook Incorporated Consumer Privacy User Profile litigation has been approved. Your settlement payment will be issued in the next 3 to 4 business days. The payment method you selected to receive your payment was blank, one of the apps. If you have not received this payment in 30 days, please reach out to us. For more information, visit this website. Sincerely, the law firm. So apparently, I must have at one point signed up for a class action lawsuit against Facebook that I don't remember signing up for. And maybe I shouldn't say this, but apparently I did. They have my email. They have my mobile app account. They know I use Facebook. And I thought, okay, that's got to be just spam, right? Like you've won a free iPhone. Then I went on Facebook and I saw a guy I know post a screenshot that he made $38 in the same lawsuit. So I am going to get paid somewhere between, I would guess, $2 to $10 would be my guess.
So are you sure that this guy didn't click on the link and eventually get hacked, and then the hacker posted those screenshots?
No, because
that is a very real thing on Instagram that happens.
No.
A lot,
So there was no link. There was nothing like that. Like I must.
You didn't click the link for more information.
I guarantee. Well, I filled this out over a year ago.
So you remember filling it out?
Vaguely. I may have been drinking. I have no idea. I have no idea when I filled this out. But I kind of vaguely remember. Like I was like, oh, this seems like something I could get a few bucks on. Like you could buy me a beer. If they did something illegal and I utilized the platform, I might as well like get compensated for it. And clearly they did something wrong because apparently I'm getting paid.
This is a real thing. I've seen it. I know people that have done it. I know people that have gotten paid out way more than $38, like hundreds of dollars from Instagram and Twitter lawsuits. I don't really quite understand like is it that they got a data breach or something like that where
it must have been.
I'm assuming.
So like
in your information
let's just say I make $20. What do I do with the $20? Do I like go to Pato and put it on black? Do I just keep it? And I mean, it's not like I'm going to invest $20. Does it buy me a few rounds at the bar? I feel like I should do something with this money because it's not really my money, even though it technically is my money because I filed this class action lawsuit. And also my other question on this, I have a lot of questions. My other question on this is this going to be a public lawsuit? And are people going to be able to research this lawsuit? And when you look at all the names that were a part of this class action lawsuit, there's Alex Strofe, and he's suing Facebook. Big Tech Strofe.
I don't think you actually sued them.
I think I was a part of suing them. Thus why I'm receiving a payout.
I think you were a minor part of a bigger company suing Facebook. So I don't think that makes you completely liable for serving Facebook.
All right, hold on. I'm clicking the link they sent.
Oh, gosh. Well, I just got a notification that you posted that you...
Okay, here we go. You had to opt in. Oh, boy. More than a year ago. You had to opt in by July 26th of 2023.
That's when all these things came out. I remember when I was in I think it was my sophomore year of college. So that would make sense timeline-wise of when all these class action social media suits.
The final approval hearing was on September 7th of 23. So this is years old. I did this years ago. Fascinating. So I'm going to be rich now, I guess, is what we're understanding. All right.
Maybe you could donate it.
All right. What do you got before we get to the Badger Hour?
Yeah. If anyone is free tonight at 7 p.m.,
Yes.
I will be at Bullwinkle's in Brookfield. We're going to be drinking some Michelob Ultras, watching the Bucks game, spinning the wheel for prizes, and you'll have a chance to win some Ultra Club Bucks Suite tickets, too, to a game late in December. So if you're not doing anything tonight, come hang out with me at Bullwinkle's. We'll drink some Michelob Ultra. We'll watch the Bucks, hopefully beat the Bulls in the inaugural game of the NBA Cup this year.
Yeah. Actually, a big one. The
big one.
The Bulls are the best team in the NBA right now.
They just had a massive comeback against the 76ers. They're pretty good.
So we talk about your sports fandoms a lot. So you grew up in Illinois.
Yeah.
You're a White Sox fan.
Yes.
You are a Bears fan.
Yes.
Are you a Bulls fan? Or are you not a huge NBA guy?
Ever since Derrick Rose left, I haven't really followed him. I haven't really cared for him. They're also owned, I've mentioned this before, Jerry Reinsdorf. It's hard to give any attention or money to his teams and expect to be satisfied. So I stay away from the Bulls. I don't really pay attention.
Josh Giddey's playing out of his mind.
Yeah, he's been unbelievable. Matas is good. I just like how they say C in red. Like everyone on Twitter when they win is like, just post a picture of a red block.
Love it.
This is what I'm seeing right now.
Love it. All right. That will do it for the first hour. And technically, this will be episode, I think, 321 in the podcast feed. This will be our normal episode. We are going to take a quick break on YouTube if you're with us live. When we come back, Riley Jauch joins us to try to defend a Luke Fickell. What does that mean? We will all find out together. As for our podcast listeners, thanks for hanging out with us. We're back with you Monday beginning at 12:30 Central, ESPN Madison, ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube. We will talk to you then on the podcast feed. And as for YouTube, stick with us. We're back with you in 2 minutes. Peace.
Well, it may be always sunny in Philadelphia.
Is he listening to us? I can't tell.
He's listening. He's not understanding.
Yeah, he doesn't even get us, man. We're talking about you.
The forecast in Titletown on Monday night.
And the Eagles going to beat the Packers 22-10. They're on to the divisional.
Calls for revenge. It's the Packers and the Eagles on Monday night. Stay up to date with all your green and gold coverage right here. 94.5 ESPN, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube. Kyle Broston-Nortman.
Transformers, Megan Fox.
No, I would say Megan Fox, are all good, but 7:45, I'm starting to go. You got to transform your ass up out of here.
KBN.
I'm just trying to figure out what in the hell is our football coach doing? Where's the leader of this football team at? This is the first time that Matt LaFleur has been the coach. Can legitimately justify the questioning of his longevity of the football coach of this football team.
Kyle Broston-Nortman. Afternoons from 2 to 5 on 94.5 ESPN, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
Still doing encores. I go to the Killers, and they leave the stage. Oh, thank you. Good night. Oh, I can't believe they didn't play Mr. Brightside.
All the action.
The talent they have here is a joke. And to me, I don't know, it just feels like a money grab by Fickell because he didn't want to put the work in.
I mean, is Wisconsin a real program? The best of both worlds lives right here. Jen, Gabe, and Chewy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 9 on 94.5 ESPN, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
Away we go, hour two, a specialty edition, Mr. Irrelevant, reacting to the news that Wisconsin Athletic Director Chris McIntosh says, yep, we're good with Fickell. We're going to roll with him into 2026. Before we get to Riley Jauch, though, Will, a little bit of fallout from my Facebook class action lawsuit. Dennis chimes in and says, I got $37 a couple days ago.
So it's legit.
It's legit.
I'm also getting some fallout for my beard. I shaved it.
Wait, what?
We're doing mustache Movember. I just shaved the beard.
You had the beard yesterday.
It was gross.
I mean, there was barely anything there.
It was itchy. Mad City Bruce chirping me saying I look 17. Okay, I do. I'm a loser. I'm a quitter.
You said it, not me. All right, joining us now, not a loser. He is the host of ESPN Wisconsin College Game Day's post-game show. You hear him on the Jump Around with Jim Rutledge and Pablo Iglesias on ESPN Madison. He is our buddy Riley Jauch. All right, Riley. How you doing? You're an alum of Wisconsin. How you feeling today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I understand I'm probably in the minority there, but I don't feel too bad about Luke Fickell coming back for another year. However, if you look at Twitter, if you look at social media, if you talk to most of my friends, you'd think the world was ending. And I understand that. I understand why people feel that way. But I'm doing good personally. How are you guys doing?
Life is good here, man. So, here's the thing. So, you view this differently than I do, and I think, a lot of people do because you're an alum, right? Like, you went to the University of Wisconsin. You're 4 years there. You attended football games. Now, you were a nerd and in the press box probably more than you were in the student section, but you still had your days where you were drinking on front lawns and, heading in, and the product, your 4 years wasn't very good. The 4 years you were there. No. But obviously we have a lot of Wisconsin alum that work with us here at Good Karma. And, I have friends that went there when I was there and they were better, right? Like I'm a couple of years older than you. They were in Big Ten championship games when me and my friends were in college. They were relevant and they were competing and they were one of the better teams in the country. And going to Camp Randall was a place you didn't want to go to. And that changed. And then they fired Paul Chris and then they hired Luke Fickell. And, well, it's been all downhill since then. So I'm curious on your perspective on the optics of this from Chris McIntosh, because we could talk about Fickell and whether or not he's the answer and whether or not we believe in him in a second. But the optics are the part that concern me. It's not the first nor the second, but the third time this season that Chris McIntosh has gone out of his way to stick his neck out for this hire he made in Luke Fickell and say effectively, yeah, he's not going anywhere. And with 4 games remaining in the season, the optics on that are very, very strange to me.
Yeah, the optics are absolutely terrible right now. And this is something I've talked about on the jump around, that even if Luke Fickell was struggling on field as a coach, the Badgers weren't winning football games like they aren't right now. If he just marketed himself better, if Chris McIntosh marketed himself better, I feel like there'd be a little more leeway with fans. Like, okay, like they're struggling right now, but they're adjusting to the new era of college football and athletics. Like, they'll figure it out. But because they've been so awful at PR since Luke Fickell got here, after the launch and everything, when everyone was fired up, they were printing hats and shirts with the Fickell Longo 2024, all that jazz. Yeah. Ever since then, they've been terrible at promoting themselves. And I think that's why there is so much angst, and so many people have been ready to fire them, honestly, since last year.
Yeah, you're right about that. And that's I mean, look, I don't know if it's a right or a wrong answer. I really don't. I don't think that firing him necessarily equals instant success. I think you set your program maybe not back any further, because it's hard to go back further than a 2-10 season, which is what they're likely facing.
Agreed.
But you're spending $50+ million to fire him. Then you're spending X amount of dollars on more recruits. You have more roster spots to fill next year. Like, does that equal instant success? I don't know. I could be wrong. It could, because we saw it in Indiana with Kirk Signetti, right? Like, he turned that program around like that.
I disagree. We had Nicole Auerbach, or Auerbach, pardon me, college football insider for NBC Sports on, and she also, Kirk Signetti is such a unicorn, and she was talking about how athletic departments now, after seeing what he's done at Indiana, have just been trying to chase that instant success. And everyone thinks, oh, if Indiana did it, like, they've been garbage their entire existence in football. Of course, us at Florida can do it. Us at LSU can do it. When in reality, Kirk Signetti, I was researching his stats, looking him up to try and make some comp with Luke Fickell. He is just on another planet when it comes to winning. Like, he turned Elon into an FCS powerhouse, then turned James Madison into an FCS powerhouse before transferring them to the FBS and then turning around Indiana. That guy is special. I thought he was a fraud. He is not. And I think we just need to take Indiana and Kirk Signetti out of the equation when we have these conversations. It's just different.
It is. But that's the expectation here, isn't it? Isn't the expectation to win 10 games here? Right, and that's the part I struggle with. All right, I want to hear one cut from McIntosh, and then we will get to something else with Riley, which I'm very much looking forward to. And that is on in-state recruiting. So there's a whole background here, right? So it starts with Brad Nortman on KBN when he said, I've talked to high school coaches. Riley, you deal with high school sports all the time in Madison. There's not much of a relationship for a lot of coaches in the state with Fickell, which I think we have all found out to be true, despite what Tim Brando then said during that Oregon-Wisconsin game 2 weeks ago, saying, all these podcasters don't know anything. Old man yelling at rain cloud. Now, Chris McIntosh asked about that this morning on Wilde Tausch, and pretty much acknowledging that there is a problem there. Here's the athletic director on Wilde Tausch.
Yeah, there has. And I mean, it's, for the record, it's incredibly important that we have a strong presence in the state of Wisconsin. There's no secret that there's talent in the state of Wisconsin that has been and will continue to be key to our success for this program. I think it's important to note, there isn't a single facet or aspect of this program that hasn't already begun, that we haven't already begun or will scrutinize. Every aspect of the program will be evaluated and scrutinized, and our ability to recruit in the state of Wisconsin and to benefit from strong relationships with high school coaches is one of those.
There's the athletic director.
Yeah,
Man.
for the record, I'm not a fan of Chris McIntosh. He is the most corporate speak guy of all time. Like, it's hard to believe anything that guy says. So my feelings on Fickell and Chris McIntosh are different from each other.
Well, here's the thing with McIntosh. And again, he was handpicked to replace Barry Alvarez, and the start of his campaign was very good. But it's just a strange ability to thread the needle of like not upsetting people, but also admitting to wrongdoing. It's just strange. It's just a strange approach. This whole season has been a strange approach by him. I think it's only warming up his seat, but also that would require the chancellor to warm up his seat. And I think personally, this is just a theory, I would guess the chancellor probably helped a little bit in what we've seen the last 24 hours. Just a hunch. All right, let's get to this. Riley Jauch on Twitter yesterday, quote, I like Luke Fickell and still think he can succeed here. That being said, I'm operating mostly on blind faith and the hope that he's the same coach that led Cincinnati to the playoff. I'm assuming Mack and Mnuchin feel the same. Okay, that's the tweet you sent out yesterday. I think you're the only person on planet Earth that tweeted something to that effect. Fair?
Yeah, there aren't many, if there are others.
So you got a hell of a response on Twitter. And when I called you earlier and I said, hey, what are you doing? And you said, well, buddy, little do you know, for the last 2 hours, I've been doing whatever I can to muster up an argument for Luke Fickell. I'm trying to defend Luke Fickell. So rather than me ask you questions, I'm going to read tweets that were sent to you. And I want you to try to respond to these tweets however you want while attempting to defend a guy who's been very bad as the head coach of Wisconsin. Fair? Are you ready for this exercise?
Perfect. Let's do it.
Okay, first one from me, and I actually didn't tweet this at you. I don't like his vest. Okay. I don't like his vest.
Okay. I understand that. I feel like that's subjective. That's a stylistic preference. Sure. But I will say I like the vest by itself. Just the black vest with the white undershirt, I think, is a great look. However, the team on the back is corny, has been corny. I can't really defend that whatsoever. It's the most kindergarten acronym of all time. Together, everyone achieves more. Never really understood that. It feels very PJ Fleckish to me, and I'm not a fan of the team on the back of the vest. But so that's one of the few things I will not defend, and my research did not support defending the team on the back.
Got it. Okay, that was going to be Will's comment for you. That team is stupid.
So dumb. It's something you'd see on the wall of a first grade classroom or a gym class.
Yep. Yeah. I think in my elementary school we had like the 6 Bs: be nice, be respectful, be kind.
Even that's more creative than team.
Right. I know. That's what I'm saying. They were bumblebees. Like at least there was a little creativity rather than just some block letters.
Yeah.
You just Pinterest the most cliche saying of all time.
Together, everybody achieves more. There you go. All right, this one from Badger John. Badger John says, Riley, you also believe in Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy. Fickell can't coach like Barry. McIntosh can't AD like Barry. Both need to go.
Mm-hmm. I think Badger John there hits on something that we've alluded to, and that's Chris McIntosh and Luke Fickell are tied together now. I like Luke Fickell. I don't like Chris McIntosh. However, their futures are inextricably linked now. The success of one will lead to the success of another. So by default, I'm rooting for Chris McIntosh. But I don't think Fickell needs to be Barry Alvarez. He doesn't need, well, in a sense he will, because he's brought this program to rock bottom and has to build them back up. But he has to be the Luke Fickell that turned Cincinnati from an afterthought in the American Athletic Conference. They were 4-8 in 2015 before he got there, into the Cincinnati that was the only group of 5 team to make the college football playoff. And a lot of people love pointing out, I'm sure we'll get to another tweet that mentions his playoff team at Cincinnati and how that he's not responsible for that.
So
what did you have to say?
I was just going to ask if you do believe in Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny. You didn't address that part.
Oh, that's a good question. I would say no to the Easter Bunny.
It's a family-friendly program.
Be nice to the MIA.
I will just say no to the Easter Bunny. However, Santa Claus, St. Nicholas, he was a real person. So I do believe in Santa Claus. Badger John was correct. But anyways, going back
Fair point.
To Luke Fickell, Thank you. And his program building capabilities. He actually had 4 really good seasons at Cincinnati, or you could actually say 5 if you include the season after college football playoff year. He had 2 11-win seasons leading up to the college football playoff berth, and the year before he was 9-1. Then he went 9-3 immediately following his college football playoff berth with Cincinnati. So the notion that he can't build programs, I think, is asinine. It hasn't worked here at Wisconsin so far, but I just don't agree with that. And Chris McIntosh, I will say, he has not been an athletic director like Barry Alvarez.
No, he's
His
not.
tenure has been marred by lots of scandals and the just ignorance of Olympic sports. So he has a lot of issues outside of the football program.
100% correct. Colin, you've never seen Wisconsin be good at football. Please stop talking. I think that's a knock on your age.
Yes, that was actually what surprised me most about these responses. I got several of those. Just like, I even got quote tweeted by someone saying like, "Okay, kid," or like, "Kids say the darndest things." And I understand. I look like I'm 15 years old. I get it. Like, Will, you said you look 17. You still look older than I do right now. So I get it. However, I am 24 years old. My first memory of Wisconsin football was them beating Wofford 44-14 back in 2009 when I was 8 years old, which for some people probably proves that I'm young. But I saw the arguably the best seasons, the best stretch of Wisconsin football ever. You have 2010, you knock off number 1 Ohio State. You have 2011, you win the inaugural Big Ten championship game. I watched all these games. I watched the 2016 season where they had an insanely tough schedule and they beat LSU at Lambeau Field to open the season. I think they went 9-3. They beat Western Michigan in the Cotton Bowl. I saw the undefeated season where they smoked Miami in the Orange Bowl, and their only blemish was Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. I saw all these fantastic years, so I understand why people are pissed off and why this is unacceptable. This is not what Wisconsin football should be right now. I have seen the glory days, so to speak. So I understand that. I know I look like a child, but I have witnessed some fantastic Badgers football, and I hope and still believe that Fickell can be the guy to get us back to that era or that level of play and hopefully beyond.
All right, one more, which is 2 tweets, but pretty much saying the same thing. Ryan says, you might want to relook at that Cincinnati roster. You could have coached that team to the top 10. And Derek chimes in that Cincinnati staff had Marcus Freeman, Mike Denbrock, and Mike Mickens. The foundation of his success was the staff that he wasn't able to replicate at Wisconsin.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair critique, and I did a lot of research into this. And Marcus Freeman actually wasn't a part of that college football playoff team. He had left to be the DC at Notre Dame before that. So maybe, sure, he helped Fickell lay the foundation, but acting like Marcus Freeman was the secret recipe, or that Mike Denbrock, who also had tons of Notre Dame ties, is currently at Notre Dame, and he ended up following Brian Kelly to LSU, that these guys were the secret sauce. I don't fully agree with that, because Fickell had clearly established his culture, and after they had all left, following the college football playoff season, he still had a successful year afterwards, and same with the players. He had 9 NFL draft picks from that 2021 college football playoff first team. You don't go 9-3 after losing that much of that squad without having a culture established and being a good head coach that can continue to build upon success. So I understand. And also, who hired those assistants? Who evaluated that talent? Who recruited those players that went to the NFL? Who developed them? It was Luke Fickell. It was his responsibility. They're all Luke Fickell guys. And I think that's the crux of that argument, is that it was a different era. It was the same era that Paul Chryst succeeded in at Wisconsin. And I think ultimately Fickell wasn't prepared for, and the athletic department wasn't prepared for how much college football would change after NIL, this new era of college football. He wasn't prepared for it. I think he got caught with his pants down a little bit.
Yeah.
And he has said as much. He has said as much at his press conferences. Jake Kokorowski, who you're going to have on next, asked Fickell a question along those same lines, and he said, yeah, things have changed a lot. How you develop kids. His initial plan for Wisconsin when he came is impossible. He couldn't execute it the way he wanted to because of how college football has changed. So now I hope over these past 3 seasons he's learned what he's done wrong and learned how to now build a successful team, successful roster, successful culture in this new era. And if not, he'll be gone next year. But
so you give him one more year to figure this out. I guess that's where I would go next for you, because and look, again, I don't know what the right or wrong answer is on his leash. My vote would still be, if this ends as a 2-10 season, rip the Band-Aid off the day they lose their final game to Minnesota. But if this does not, or if this, and it sounds like it's going to, if this bleeds into next year and he's the head coach in 2026, what needs to happen for you to say, all right, it's not going to work?
I think I wouldn't be shocked if Fickell gets fired mid-season. If he starts how he did this year, you have 2 wins against lesser quality opponents, which they won't even have that luxury next year. They start with Marcus Freeman's Notre Dame at Lambeau next year. So, and they have Pitt as well. So if they start 1-2 and then get beat in their first 2 Big Ten games, I can't remember off the top of my head who their first 2 games are in the Big Ten. But if he starts 1-4, 1-5, then I think it's not going to work. It's over. It's time to move on. But if fans want some reasons for optimism, I think the young guys are really bought in right now. We had Cooper Catalano on the jump around, star freshman linebacker for the Badgers, on the jump around yesterday. Videos up on the ESPN Madison YouTube channel right now. People should go watch that. Young guys, him, Kevin Haywood's dad tweeted out support. Carter Smith's dad tweeted out support. Like, these young guys are still bought in. They're still playing hard. They believe in Luke Fickell. And I think that matters. Last year we saw guys quit on Fickell. This year I'm not seeing that. So with extra financial backing, and I think there's going to be a lot more changes behind the scenes. It seems like that's what they're alluding to, even though they won't tell us any of their plans. Chris McIntosh, the athletic department. I think with that extra support and the backing of the young guys, this young core that you can build upon, there is definitely cause for optimism despite the lack of on-field success thus far. I'd like to see at least 1 win this season, though. Like, you got to get the axe back.
Okay, hold on a minute. You want 1 win. You're not expecting 1 win.
No, I'm not, unfortunately.
How long did it take you, Riley? Because you're an optimistic guy. How long did it take you to realize this was as bad as it is? Like, what game was it? What moment was it this season where you went, holy crap, they're worse than I thought?
It was Maryland, where I was just like, what? How? This is Maryland, man. This is a freshman quarterback. How are we letting him dice us up like this? And it was even more so than that. Danny O'Neill's like, how are you this bad? Like, and that's another one of the big issues with Fickell is his talent evaluation at quarterback has been very suspect during his time at Wisconsin.
Yeah.
He has not been able to find the guy.
No, he hasn't been able to. And obviously, he's dealt with the injuries, right? He's dealt with the injuries to his starters and his transfers the last all 3 years, in fact, dating back to Tanner Mordecai and then Van Dyke last year and now this year Edwards. He hasn't been able to keep his transfer quarterback that's supposed to lead this program upright. Now, is that the coach's fault? No, not necessarily, but you got to find ways to win, man. Right? You're not the first coach in history to have an injured quarterback, and many other teams have found ways to win games with a backup quarterback. It's just football. Just football, man. Eagles won a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback, and obviously that's the NFL, but still, regardless. Just throwing that out there.
And there are injuries to the offensive line, too, which have not helped. It's like the past 2 years with Phil Longo. Also, I think that was Luke Fickell's biggest mistake, was hiring Phil Longo. Trying to change the offensive philosophy was an abysmal decision. But with Phil Longo's offense, that was so predicated on the quarterback, didn't have a good quarterback to run it. This year, Jeff Grimes' offense predicated on the offensive line. Offensive line, they've had 7 different combinations in 8 games. They may have an 8th different combination in their 9th game tomorrow. So just injuries have been a major factor in Luke Fickell failing at Wisconsin, but like you said, that you still you can't go 2-10. That is for sure.
The other issue is, right, like when we think of the glory days of Wisconsin football, which aren't as far removed from those as many people like to think, right? Think about 2017, think about 2019, you're in Big Ten championship games. You had a dominant running game, you had a good offensive line, you had a good defense. Which of those do you think the Badgers have right now at 2 and whatever they are?
I mean, the closest they have is a dominant defense. I mean, they were only the second team to hold Oregon to under 28 points, I think. The other one was Indiana.
Is that weather related or is that defense related?
See, that's the issue. And Dante Moore did not look great, that's for sure. And then you have the stinker against Iowa. The defense has shown flashes, even last year with the Oregon game and the Penn State game. They've shown flashes of being able to be an elite unit. But I think that says more to how far away all the other aspects are. Like Gideon Atuka has been the closest thing we've seen to an elite running back at Wisconsin over the past 2 seasons. And he just had a pedestrian game against Oregon. He just looked like he had a pulse. So I think that speaks more to the failings than the success of Mike Tressel's defense.
Your 2 longest rushes this year are a 61-yard rush by a wide receiver and a 20-yard rush by a punter.
Yeah.
That ain't good, Riley.
Yeah.
That ain't good for a team that has Monte Ball and James White and Melvin Gordon and Jonathan Taylor and Braylon Allen in their history.
Yeah, no, me and Corey have made that a bit on the Wisconsin College Game Day postgame show. We are just hounding, waiting for a running back to have a 20-plus yard rush because it hasn't happened yet. In what year has Wisconsin not had a running back have one rush of 20-plus yards or more? One rush. Maybe I should have done more research into that because I don't know if it's ever happened.
I would gander to say it's probably never happened.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like that's a terribly high bar. Right?
No,
we're talking 20
not
yards.
at all.
All right, hold on. I'm just gonna go back as far as I can. Nope, Ches Malusi, 89 yards in that year. Yeah, 96 for Braylon in that year. I'm just gonna keep looking, but I imagine I'm not gonna find one. 20 yards, dude.
No.
20.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's where maybe my optimism's a little bit misinterpreted. I totally see and understand there are glaring faults with the Luke Fickell regime here at Wisconsin. Most glaringly, obviously, the wins and losses on the field, but also the way he's handled the alumni and the fan base has just been awful. I understand he's more of a player's coach, like he's a player's guy, and I respect that, and I'm glad the players like him. But if you, one, are the head football coach of the University of Wisconsin-Madison, you have to understand how big, how important this is to the alumni, to the fans. Everyone wants to be a part of Wisconsin football. Everyone wants Wisconsin football to succeed. And number 2, as an outsider, as a guy from Ohio and Ohio State, you have to double your efforts to make sure that you become one of us. You're a Wisconsin guy. You're a Midwesterner. I mean, WB didn't pronounce Wisconsin. But the fact that he is, not only reached that bar as an outsider where like he's gone above and beyond to insert himself into the Wisconsin culture, he hasn't even hit the bare minimum.
No.
And you work with Brad Nortman a lot more than I do. But I don't know if he's ever been approached by Fickell. I don't know if they've ever talked.
He hasn't.
They
haven't.
Like you can't, and that's the most frustrating thing about it. Like for me, as someone who likes him and wants him to succeed, it's like these are layups. It could be the easiest part of the job is just showing face, pressing flesh, as Barry would say, kissing babies.
All right, that's all it takes.
Yep. And a lot of people would like you and support you, but he hasn't done that.
No, and if he's a player's coach, that's great. But 2-6 is not great. And by the way, I got through 2005, and there was at least a minimum rush by a running back of 45 yards each of those seasons.
Yeah,
so 20. That's not even talking 20. Right. That's talking 2.5 times 20. So, there you go.
It's depressing. It's very sad. This is not. This is not where we can be as Wisconsin football. It's unacceptable.
Joseph chimes in. Bring back the axe at least. I just want to let Joseph know. Minnesota already bowl eligible. They already have 6 wins. Mm-hmm. Wisconsin has to win out to be bowl eligible. That's where we're at. Sweet times to be alive. Wins over Nebraska, Purdue, Michigan State, and Rutgers in conference for Minnesota. They did lose to Cal, though. They did lose to Cal, so maybe that gives you a little bit of faith. Cal's not very good this year, are they?
Exactly. And, I mean, Michigan State's a bottom feeder in the Big Ten. They should have lost to Michigan State last week. I was watching that game. Michigan State handled overtime horribly, the end of the game horribly. Michigan State should have won that game, but still, Minnesota, they've been able to win close games, and we haven't seen that under Fickell. Yeah. So they got that going for them.
All right, Riley. I appreciate the time, brother. This has been a fun half an hour. I don't think you made me feel better at all, but that's okay. I think you made yourself feel better, which is a positive, and we will be listening to you tomorrow after the Washington game, ESPN Wisconsin College Game Day postgame show. I assume the phone lines will be open.
Yes, they certainly will. I actually talked to some Washington fans at Brats last night, and they plan on calling in afterwards. So we might have some Huskies fans.
Hold on a minute. I have a follow-up question now. So it was a Thursday. You get this news from Chris McIntosh backing Luke Fickell, and your decision is, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to State Street.
Yes, that was exactly my thought process.
He's a man
I needed a place. Yeah, exactly. Get some work done and have a carbless and talk to some Washington fans. It was a great time. They're loving Wisconsin. They like cheese curds. They like spotted cows. So I'm happy.
Trying to bring up the morale in the community.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
We really still were working, technically.
He's the mayor.
Yeah.
Community advocate.
And that's the thing. Maybe Fickell would be more successful if he was hanging out at State Street Brats a little more often.
Should have invited him.
Put that on a quote card.
Put it on a quote card.
Yeah.
All right, Riley Jauch, ESPN Wisconsin College Game Day. Thanks, Riley.
Thanks for the time, guys. Appreciate it.
Is Riley the kid who used to have long locks? Yes. Long locks, excuse me. Yes. He did have longer hair back in the day. Still got some hair on that head. But good stuff from him. I mean, look, we're a proponent of this on this program. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion. Everybody is. That does not mean we agree with your opinion. And Riley Jauch defending Luke Fickell is the boldest, ballsiest thing one could do right now. I respect it. I don't know how he did it. And I don't know that he did a great job of it. I mean, I don't know. I'm not the judge or the jury. He certainly tried. But I don't know how you defend this. I don't. I don't. It's been as bad gets. Right? If you really want to defend it, you can blame quarterback injuries. That's it. So, there you have it. All right, Jake Kokorowski, BadgerObserver, is going to join us in a moment as we try to dive into this a little bit more, and we will hear from Kokorowski on this bit, and you know he's a guy who Riley just alluded to, right? He's in the press conferences. He's there. I think he was part of that first of 3. And I just want to revisit the timeline for those of you joining us, because my problem with all of this is the optics. And it's not the optics of a 2-6 who's going likely to be a 2-10 football team. It's not even that part of it. It's the optics of the athletic director, Chris McIntosh. That's the part that fires me up, right? And this is not the first nor the second, but the third time that Chris McIntosh has gone out of his way to stick his neck out for Luke Fickell. And, you know, they've all come in different forms too, right? The first one was, okay, he pulls some reporters aside after the Maryland game. And then I think it was during the first bye week. Or no, it was a couple weeks ago. And maybe after the Iowa loss or the Ohio State loss. he sends that letter out to Badger Nation.
That wasn't actually a letter.
Yeah, it was a PDF, I think, right? Or a JPEG, maybe?
Yeah.
He sends out a letter to Badger Nation, effectively saying, we're going to do better from our perspective. We're going to put out more, we're going to put more resource into this. We are going to put more money into this. We are going to figure it out together. We have a $280 million practice facility that we are going to build, and we have a ton of resources behind. Yada, 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 yada. That's the issue, man. And then obviously you get this one yesterday through Pete Thamel of, hey, yeah, we're going to stick with them for 2026. There's 4 games left in the season. 4. And you're coming out with this statement. That's problematic. The optics are bad. Optics are bad. I don't know how you could look at it any other way. All right, joining us now, Badger Observer newsletter. Check him out on Twitter. Our guy, Jake Kokorowski, joins us now. Jake, appreciate the time, brother. What is your perspective of the last 24 hours? Because it is unique with 4 games remaining. That's a word for it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Of
course.
Apologies if I'm a minute behind you guys. Good old substitute teaching. But it's the last 24 hours. I mean, I was substitute teaching when all the interviews came out about Chris McIntosh saying that Luke Fickell was coming back. And quite honestly, to me, it was expected, right? It was all been hinted. My old colleagues at the State Journal back a couple weeks ago had said that Chris McIntosh spoke to the players, right? And those inferences, from that meeting appeared to be that Luke would be coming back. I even talked to my latest Badger Observer article guys. This morning I had talked in the past few days with some recruits, and they were on a Zoom call with Luke Fickell this past week. Or was it last Monday? Sorry, 2 Mondays ago. And during that bye week, and according to a couple of recruits, that he said he's coming back. So I mean, this is just I feel like y'all know the official, or was it officially official type of term?
Yep.
I feel like it's kind of that, but it's a rough time for Wisconsin, to say the least. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's it kind of confirmed what everyone was hearing, and it kind of confirmed just where their mindset is going into this season. Or next season, I should say, even.
Yeah, it's just strange, Jake. And I, right before you jumped on with us, I was kind of relaying the timeline this season, right? This is, to me, and I could be missing one, or I might be, misreading one. And I'd be curious from your perspective, being around Wisconsin football as much as you are. But I believe this is the 3rd time this season Chris McIntosh has gone out of his way to stick his neck out for Luke Fickell. I think the first one, and I don't know if you were part of this pool of reporters, but I know it was limited. After, I believe it was the Maryland loss, he talked to a few reporters pretty much just restating his commitment to Fickell. And then we had the letter that was like a JPEG and an email, a couple weeks ago of, again, saying, us and Chancellor Mnuchin, we're going to put more resources into football. And then ultimately you get this through Pete Thamel of ESPN yesterday. 3 times in one season. It reminds me of like when you, in the hypothetical, because I know your wife would never be mad at you, Jake, but in the hypothetical, you asked your wife, are you mad at me? And she said, no, I'm not mad, but she's mad. Like this is me thinking like Chris McIntosh is saying, oh, this isn't bad. This isn't bad. This isn't bad. Everything's fine. Like that's how I read this. I think it's 3 times, right? Is this the 3rd time?
Yeah, it's the 3rd time. I mean, technically, if you include the vote of confidence after the Maryland game, and no, I was not part of that small group of reporters. And quite honestly, like in my opinion, I really wish they would have had a press conference regarding this entire situation, where so it's not just limited to a bunch of and obviously all those reporters that receive the availability deserve it, but I also do believe that someone like myself that's been with covering this program for 13 years also deserves that, and I also think it that's my personal 2 cents on things. But sure. But it's also it is something where, I mean, when you have to address it 3 times, that's rough. I mean, the other thing was is that letter to everybody that I know Zach Hoprin from WOZN had initially tweeted just talking about, the infrastructure, the resources, right, the investment and whatnot. So you can count that as 2. And then you had, what happened yesterday. So, yeah, it's 3. And so, the heat definitely is on from the outside looking in, right? So it's so to me, that's, they're trying to, I think, shore up, whatever support they can with what's going on. And to me, it's rough right now because you're getting it from, everywhere. And, you're hearing it from, especially with like the former players, media too. And it's, now, what's happened now is that Chris McIntosh, also, he's devoted to Luke Fickell. I mean, you can tell. I mean, there's a support is there, and it's one thing too where he's saying that, hey, like we know this is unacceptable. I know it's unacceptable, and whatnot. But I think now, you can say all the words, and it's something that I live by. You talk about, my wife as an example. One thing she says is words are, actions are larger than words.
Yes,
right?
bingo.
And so I'm not saying that to like dismiss, like I'm not like trying to rail on Wisconsin at all, but it's also now, okay, you said what you said. You're going to do these investments. You're going to put forth more into the football program. Now let's see. Okay, now let's see what's going to come out of it. And so that's going to be, you have these last 4 games of the season, right? Mm-hmm. You have the early signing period. Can they keep, they're right now they have 14 verbal commits within the class. They have a few more coming on campus for a few official visits this weekend to try to, increase those numbers. But then, and it's also like, okay, what's going to happen now? In terms of, they talk about player retention and these investments there. Okay, what are you going to do to keep those players? And what are you going to do to now also lure players from the transfer portal or recruiting?
Yeah. And I'm curious, I mean, you do such a great job, Jake, and it's BadgerObserver.com where you can subscribe to the newsletter and get access to all the great work Jake is doing at his new project, BadgerObserver.com. But you do a great job on the recruiting trail. You talk to recruits, you kind of get the pulse of recruits. What are some of those guys saying as they witness the program either they're committed to or being recruited by falter to 2-6, and everything kind of seems like it's in disarray, except their commitment to the head coach. That's been pretty firm now for the 3rd time by the athletic director. What's the pulse of recruits right now?
Right. I'll start off with like Jaden Petit, he's one of the, a couple of 2, 3, 4 4-star recruits in this class by at least one of the recruiting outlets, right? He's nearly a consensus 4-star recruit. And Petit is I talked to him on Tuesday with his cousin, who's also, I think, on staff for Naples St. John Newman where he plays. And Petit still said he's committed, So I asked him, he took a visit. He did confirm, this is a 4-star recruit, went to go see Oklahoma play Ole Miss, and, Oklahoma's offense underneath John Mateer and that type of offense, from the old Washington State OC who's now there. It's, I'd be, personally, that's a potent offense. And he said that offense stood out, when he watched Oklahoma, but he also said that he was still, I asked him, I go, are you still committed to Wisconsin, or are you backing off a little bit? And he goes, no, I'm still committed. So Petit's still committed, which is big because I don't think Wisconsin's had a receiver type like him who's a legit 6'4", 220, and probably could start playing, this week or next week for Wisconsin based off of his abilities there and what he's doing down in Southwest Florida. We also have, I talked to a couple other recruits when I was, also for the article I had up today, a couple of the offensive line recruits. I got to see Ben Novak a few weeks ago during the Badgers' first bye week, and so I've had, good rapport with him, and, both him and the other offensive lineman commit for this class, Max Cochran, who's out in Richmond, Virginia, they're 100% locked in, they said. I asked them to confirm it, and they both said that they were. So, it's going to be tough because, Wisconsin lost someone like a linebacker, Aiden Reedon, who's, from Cincinnati. He played at Cincinnati St. Xavier, which is one of the powerhouse programs down in that city. He went, and he decommitted, and then he committed to Michigan just a day ago, or he announced it. So there's going to be work to be done, but I also want to preface people saying, too, that, it's poaching season altogether as well. Like it's regardless of Wisconsin's record, they're going to be, it also shows to me that Wisconsin's recruits are worth poaching, right? And I think that's one thing to keep in mind for those. Like you're seeing, like for Amari Latimer, the 4-star running back. I haven't had a chance to talk with him, but you've seen the reports that he's visited Tennessee. I think that was a Rivals report. Ohio State. Those places. Those are big time programs. Those are college football playoff programs, and they want Wisconsin recruits. So if you're looking, that's one thing too that I think people should realize is that, I think the one thing you can stand out with Wisconsin's track record underneath Luke Fickell and director of recruiting Pat Lambert, they've done a good job recruiting overall. It's one thing to recruit. It's also one thing now to get the guys ready when they're so young. But that's also tough too because, and that's one thing I want to preface, is that it's hard to play redshirt freshmen and true freshmen. You've seen Cooper Catalano and Mason Posa really do well at inside linebacker, but that's kind of the exception rather than the norm, right? But that also shows that they're able to develop them a little bit earlier. But it's a position like offensive line. It's hard having a first or second year player unless they're key 4-star talent that are ready to plug in. So there's a lot going on. I feel like just everything going on. It's kind of a perfect storm of everything that's turned into where. And it goes back to recruiting back in the Paul Chryst days, too, where I don't want people to, have revisionist history and blame it all on the Fickell regime, where things weren't, there's a reason why Paul Chryst was fired.
Yeah.
And whatnot. But, it also, now in 3 years, there's just a lot going on within just the landscape of college football. And I'm wondering also, I guess my big question now is just, what is Wisconsin's place in college football? Especially in this current landscape where there's so much transfer portal talk, there's so much NIL talk, and there's so much emphasis on transfer portal NIL, and Wisconsin was always been a developmental program. Well, how's that going to change? And hopefully at BadgerObserver, I'll be able to answer that in the next couple of weeks.
Amazing stuff from Jake Kocorowski. We got time for one more, Jake, one quick one, and it goes back to something you said, how McIntosh kind of restated, all right, we're going to put more and more back into football. We're going to put more, assets and money, et cetera. Has anybody asked why that wasn't the case earlier? And maybe did Fickell get more than, bite off more than he can chew right when he took this job? Because I don't think this low of lows is what anybody expected when you and I were at that press conference back in November 2022. And the talk was all about championships and getting back to competing for championships. Why did it take 3 years for a reassessment of the resources?
Yeah, and it's funny because I was talking to someone earlier, but regarding just that type of, and I know that the discussion, and I know Chris McIntosh talked with Wilde Tausch earlier, right, about just kind of the discussions about the championship level expectations compared to, I know what he had said, I think it was with Jesse Temple for Badger Connect, about success not being just measured by wins and losses, and he clarified his position there. But for me, one thing was I also looked at an old article from Jim Polsey, my old colleague at the State Journal, and I was looking at it, and one part was talking about Luke Fickell's contract size, which was an average of $7.8 million per year, the one thing this is what stood out, saying it certainly required a commitment on my part on behalf of the department, and from my perspective, just a recognition that this program is important. It's a priority to us. It became so evident during COVID. This program is a lifeblood. It's the financial engine that underwrites the cost of opportunity for 800 athletes, and it needs to be operating at a championship level. And so I guess that's, and I think it's a fair question to ask is, where, in terms of operating this, why wasn't the switch fully turned on? And I know it's been talked about too with NIL and things, and they're trying to have their place within the NIL world, and also with now rev share coming in where the schools play the players and trying to do things the right way. But it's also now I think it's a fair question to ask. Just what has taken it to this point where now, instead of going all in before, and that's just a question of asking strategy, is asking actual resources were available, because remember too, the Big Ten's got their big contract, but what does that play in? Play into everything, and that's just those are just questions that for me as a reporter, I need to ask, or I would like to ask, just because it's hard to, from the outside looking in at times, just what's going on with the program, why is it at where it's at, and like why weren't things done back then to what they're doing now, and would they be in this position now? So there's just a lot of questions, right? And
not a lot of
hard
answers
to figure out there's going to be answers. Yeah.
Yeah, well said. Jake, appreciate the time as always, my friend. Always good catching up with you. And I know we didn't get to talk a lot of WWF, WWE today, but maybe that's for next time.
Hey, no worries. I mean, we need to talk to Gabe about getting us on, Good Karma Wrestling.
Yeah, good point.
And chopping up that way.
Yeah. All of my people talk to your people, and they'll talk to his people. All right. Jake Kocorowski, Badger-Observer. Thanks, buddy.
Take care, bud. Have a great weekend.
The great Jake Kocorowski joining us here on our special edition of Mr. Irrelevant. Well, that will do it for us. Good stuff there from Jake. Good insight from Jake. We'll have more where that came from in about 10 minutes on Kyle Brust and Nortman, who are live at Echo Tap in Madison, just up the street from the Kohl Center. One of my favorite bars in that city, by the way, I might add. So we will have more where that came from. Plenty of McIntosh reaction. More from McIntosh on Wilde Tausch. Will, good job today, man. That's 8 hours straight of you in that room.
Yeah, and if you want more of me, come to Bullwinkles in Brookfield tonight, 7 p.m. Let's drink some Michelob Ultra, watch the Bucks win some prizes. It'll be a great time.
Appreciate y'all hanging out with us, as always, on this Friday. We're back with you Monday ahead of Packers, Eagles, and we will react to the weekend in Wisconsin football. Josh and Hunter rejoin us on Monday. Thanks to Jake Kocorowski. Thanks to Riley Auk. Thanks to Harry Douglas. What a 2 hours this has been. We'll be back with you Monday. We'll talk to you then. Peace.